You can threaten the energy companies, you can threaten the financial companies, but you dare threaten the tuk-tuk mafia, well, you're going to have something in store for you. So the topic of today's video is unit of account. Now, when people think of Bitcoin as a unit of account, they throw themselves far into the future in this magical point in time where we think everything's going to be priced in Bitcoin. No, we have to start with today and how we can build it into tomorrow. And it really is about each individual, each cog in the wheel of the big system, knowing a price to buy, what they can store, and what they should sell at. And money needs to offer the most accurate way to financially measure those things. And now we have a type of money that's connected to physics. So what better than a form of money that accurately measures the costs in physics into your businesses, and then over time we develop free market prices at the consumption end, as in the price of your coffee priced in sats is going to be the last piece. We're going to have the production of coffee, the ability for it to be processed, stored, and moved, and everything else costed in sats to get that final price in Bitcoin. And you can analogize that to anything. So let's start with the production side, which is right now, Bitcoin miners are producing a quantity of Bitcoin at a rate of consumption of electricity. And so satoshis per kilowatt hour, we can directly use 100 sats right now per kilowatt hour roughly as a network average. And well, if you are earning 100 sats per kilowatt hour as a miner, what price would you be willing to switch this machine off? So on would be you're mining your 100 sats. You're getting the rate that the network is paying. And essentially you can think of this like the way the fiat system has an interest rate, Bitcoin has an energy price. And this baseline global planetary scale energy price is where everything is going to be determined as to whether this computer is on or off. And the off aspect is the electricity potentially being used for the example of a tuk-tuk that uses a battery to drive people around. And well, think of that person that just wants to charge that vehicle, fill their tank, just like when you go to a gas station, American petrol station, more normally known. And yeah, if you're paying, say, 200 sats per kilowatt hour, so now the producer of the energy that's mining it as Bitcoin is now earning twice as much. That sounds good. That's a very big margin on what miners think they can get with all these efficiency gains of trying to optimize the system. Why not sell energy in sats as a decentralized energy node? Now, you have the option to sell to the grid, be connected to the grid, but there's a difference between the wholesale rate that they'll buy the energy for and what they charge the end customer. They control us through energy, not money. And right now, the grid here, I think, is getting, in sats, it's charging people 360 here in El Salvador. So if you're able to produce your own power and get it monetized at 100 sats, maybe someone comes in to charge at 200. Now, there is a whole discussion behind the ability to sell energy quite freely is a very controlled thing. So this is not going to be a separate entity of producing power and selling it without a lot of legal hoops to explore and develop here in El Salvador, as how a path of Bitcoin per kilowatt hour can be explored into the physical storage of that energy, priced in sats, so that 10 kilowatt hours battery, well, it's storing 2,000 sats worth of energy. And the end consumer, how would we charge the end consumer? Well, now the person has a price, a quantity to fill up, like filling up the tank, you knowing the dollar amount to fill up your tank and the price at the electric station now. And then, yeah, how do you charge your customer? How do you measure the cost of what you want to charge your customers? Well, let's give a layman's that your 10 kilowatt hours gives you 10 miles of range. We've jumped from sats per kilowatt hour to sats per battery and analogize that to any type of battery, whether it's wings, wheels, you name it. And then sats per mile, the very performance of that motor or that coffee machine or insert anything that uses electricity. If we can price the energy in sats, price the functional use of that energy in sats, well, now we have a defined cost in sats for a particular end consumer. And the goal here is that Bitcoin offers a baseline margin, a higher margin when people come in to buy the energy, and then you as the person driving your electric vehicle around, or not even driving it around anymore, you've got an AI running it for you, that's in sats. Well, now you've got this very defined margin to maybe charge your end customer. So you filled the tank, shall we say, at 2,000 sats. And here in El Salvador, if your local tuk-tuk does 10 miles, 20 trips, 50 cents per trip, because you do not want to offer a lower price because they will not be happy competitors. So, okay, let's charge the same price they do. Well, now you just earned 14,000 sats. So you're filling the tank at this price and you're getting paid this many sats. Does that sound good? And yeah, the effort here is, again, to have each individual in the big system to know a price, a functional use of their energy, and what they can charge at. But if they know their cost level, they can have margins that compete with each other at a free market rate. And hopefully all these margins squash a bit if this sort of enterprise is actually viable. And that's the real sort of interesting thing with this, that we really want people to be able to just understand those three basic things: buy, function, and sell. And if more and more individuals can transition to Bitcoin as a unit of account specific to what they want to do, they don't have to learn about the intricacies of the Bitcoin network, just the way you get in the car and you just want to push, turn the wheel, push the pedal. You just don't need it complicated. If you're listening to this, you probably want the complicated answer. But yeah, I hope this gives a loose overview as to what's possible when we start measuring the financial outputs of physical things. And what this does in comparison to fiat is, well, if we have a form of money that accurately measures the physics of any business and allows us a cost level that we can define prices on top, we have standardized unit of account from inputs of the business to the outputs of the business, and it can be separate from the system, the existing system. And that's incredibly important at the current point in time we are right now, which is supply chains look like they're sort of crumbling in all different ways. So whether they completely break down and something else needs to be built, whether it's the access to energy, supply chains, and the fact that, you know, an electric vehicle is probably moving things around. And if we can have energy and supply chains priced in sats, we can allow that path to free market prices, because that's the end game. This is the end game for Bitcoin, to truly give a better opportunity to individuals to just focus on that particular function that they want to do in their lives. And if we have accuracy on both sides, margins that far superior than a massive electrical system with all the distribution costs and all these sorts of things that just make people pay a much higher price for energy, it means people don't keep more of the money they do earn. If this particular example allows energy to be offered at a lower price, they simply keep more. And when people keep more of the money they already earn, they're happier, they have something to save. And this is that aspect of the expansion of compute, repricing Bitcoin to buy more and more energy. So people are holding the very money that gives them access to more of these opportunities. And it just completely flips the fiat system, where we can hold something that preserves value in energy terms in this world where expansiveness amounts of energy use across all different things and productivity from AI, and the information side is all exploding and expanding. But there's only 21 million Bitcoin. But this represents Bitcoin being accessible through physical endpoints, not just financial digital ones. And how this system sustains its accuracy of Bitcoin per kilowatt hour is if more hash rate is switching on and off to provide power and make a margin at a higher price by selling energy. Well, this means that hash rate comes offline. And what that does is increase sats per kilowatt hour if hash rate comes offline, because there's less people showing up on the network to mine blocks, And so the reward per person online goes up. So the ones that are not having buyers come in are starting to earn more. And so what we do is we have this free market price of energy in sats that literally follows and chases the very aspect of sales. Because, for example, if half the network switched off selling energy at 200 sats per kilowatt hour, the people switched on, well, their price, like the China ban, the sats per kilowatt hour would double. So we've got this global decentralized price of energy chasing the very local trade of energy, and it'll all start to stabilize at sats per kilowatt hour the more these sorts of systems and services are built out. Yeah, I think this needs to either go on Geyser Fund or something like that, because what I want to do is probably get some funding to get one of these systems built and explore all of this through the software side, the compute side, and obviously the hardware side, and explore that Bitcoin per kilowatt hour and all the different manifestations that we can measure the physics of things and give a financial answer. If this isn't interesting, if this is not futuristic and exciting, I don't know what is. I do this all for free. I need to get this into material and written and articles and whatnot else. But yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.